Welcome to the Rotary Club of Edina. I'm your host, Josh Sprague, proud president of the #1 club in the universe. I'd like to extend a special welcome to all our club members, interested friends, and professionals tuning into today's broadcast live from the Rotary TV studios in Edina, Minnesota. These are historic times for our club. Because of the coronavirus epidemic, our regularly scheduled Thursday meetings at the Edina Country Club have been canceled since March 16th and will continue to be canceled through April. But we are learning new ways to connect for our weekly meetings, including today's Facebook Live format, which will be recorded, edited, and uploaded to YouTube in the next 24 hours as well, so that those of you who couldn't tune in now can still watch the meeting later. Although we're not physically together, we're still together in spirit, fellowshipping virtually and carrying out the business of our club, which is service to humanity, on a weekly basis. If you remember last week, I mentioned some of the many local service organizations working overtime due to the epidemic and really in need of volunteers and donations. One of those very busy organizations is Help at Your Door, formerly known as Store to Door, which for 36 years has enabled people to age confidently at home by providing food access, companionship, and a helping hand in the 7-county area. Since the pandemic began, grocery deliveries and service requests are up 25%, and they are looking for volunteers to take orders over the phone, fill those orders in the store, and then deliver those orders directly to the clients' homes. Last week, I thought I'd give this a shot myself and signed up for delivery of groceries. At 9:30 a.m., I went to the Cub Foods on Lindale, where volunteers gave me 5 plastic bins filled with groceries for 2 different households. I loaded the groceries into my car and then headed to Minneapolis. The first household I visited was an older couple that were both legally blind. And so obviously getting their basic food needs met is very challenging. The second household was an 88-year-old man with a pacemaker who lived alone, and due to his health conditions, was not able to spend any time outside of the home. I have to tell you, after seeing these 2 households and having some very heartfelt conversations with the clients, I felt very grateful to be a part of Help at Your Door's mission, providing this type of very basic, essential service in a time of crisis for many. If you want to give something like this a try yourself, I'd encourage you to reach out to their volunteer coordinator, Carolyn Swenson, at carolyn@helpatyourdoor.org. If you're not comfortable assisting people in person, or you're not in a position to do so because of your own health condition, there are also many other ways to volunteer virtually right from the comfort of your own home. Take a look at volunteermatch.org/COVID-19. There are many opportunities to virtually teach, educate, and inform seniors and other people in need. You can lead an art class, or you can even just connect with a lonely senior online. Whatever you decide to do out there, remember that Rotarians are people of action, and your small effort can make a huge difference in the lives of our neighbors and friends struggling with the effects of the pandemic. So let's all get involved and do what we do best. And on that note, it's time for the invocation. This week's invocation comes from Arthur Rauner, an Edina Rotarian since December 1964. That's 56 years. Wow. Longtime pastor of Colonial Church in Edina and President Emeritus of the Pilgrim Center for Reconciliation. Arthur's been recovering from treatment for leukemia, but still had the time to share these important words with us. Arthur writes, "A prayer for Rotary in the year of the pandemic. O Lord of life, in the days of keeping our distance in order to protect lives, thank you for the call to care for each other. In precious friendships, we rise to be our brother's keeper, those men and women all around us whose lives are dear to us and dear to you. You came to show us the way of love, being willing to give even your life in order to save others. Even this strange pandemic reminds us of this highest claim of the human community. Heal the sick, we pray. defend those dismayed, restore families, humble hearts, reset our purposes in life, give back our sense of wonder and of hope. Point us towards joy in these days that call us to the best of life. Hold close our Rotary friends here and around the world. Keep sending us to serve and to love with humble hearts. Keep us seeing the best in each other, making these to be days of hope for America and for the world. Amen. Thank you so much, Arthur. We miss you, and we hope to see you back live in person sometime in May. And now I'd like to ask Kelly Sprague to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and the four-way test. Kelly?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Awesome. And now the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerns?
Way to go, Kel. All right. Thanks for being here. All right. Time for some announcements. Let's sit down by the fire and have a chat. And of course, I get to start this off with one of my favorite people to have a fireside chat with, Jean Morrison. Hey, Jean.
Hi.
Good to see you again.
Thank you. Good
Welcome
to be
back
here.
to Rotary TV.
Nice and toasty.
Oh, isn't it? A little bit of snow out there you brought. What's going on?
I should say ho ho ho. I could have worn my Mrs. Claus costume today.
You could have. It's snowy out there. I went for a run and I couldn't believe the wind was just blowing all over and snow. And
Yeah.
I think you were in February, not April. Oh well. So I want to hear a little bit more about the Rotary Helping Hands program. This is a program you introduced about a month ago.
Yeah.
Tell us about the progress to date and what other assistance you can use from fellow Rotarians.
So we started about a month ago, and our commitment was to reach out to all of our folks, our senior Rotarians. There's about 53 of them, plus the honorary Rotarians, and we've done that.
Mm-hmm.
And in this time of really trying challenges and stresses, what we're realizing is this affects all of us.
Right.
And so one of the things in all these changes that doesn't change is our commitment as Rotarians to service above self. And so our view is we need to also be serving each other. And so what we'll be doing over the next few weeks is reaching out to all Rotarians, just reach out to say how you doing, offer support, offer help if they need it, just to check in. We're a family, and we're going to do that.
And we're a big family with all different ages, professions, stations in life.
Exactly.
It was so interesting chatting with you the other day. We were talking about, how this affects senior members versus maybe a young member who now is staying at home, working from home. The kids are around, everybody's home, and they're trying to get things done and balance it all out.
Heightened stress, heightened challenges for everybody. It's different for everybody, but everyone's got them.
Yeah.
And so we need to say we're a family, we're a Rotary family, we're here for each other, and so we have a team of people who will be starting to reach out next week to all Rotarians.
So you've made a few calls, we've all made a few calls on
Yep.
the committee. What are you hearing out there from the people that you've talked to?
The perspective is broad in terms of what the needs are, from a hello, a welcomed hello. I talked to someone yesterday who is in an elder care situation, can't go out of their space, can't see anyone else. So they're bored, they're lonely, they're saying this is no way to live. And so just a call.
Depressed.
Yeah, just lonely and bored. And they cannot go out into the hallway of their facility. Food is dropped off at the door.
Yep.
And so I have to say that just someone reaching out saying, how are you? I'm thinking of you. We could all use that.
That social isolation is so strong. This gentleman that I had, the 88-year-old that I delivered groceries to,
Yeah.
he was telling me, I don't dare step a foot outside the door. I said, well, what are you doing for exercise? You walking around the block? He said, no, I'm just doing something in the back hallway. you know, because they really don't feel comfortable.
They're afraid.
They're afraid.
They're afraid. And myself yesterday was day 14 for me of the low-level version of the virus, and I was alone for 14 days. I saw my first human being yesterday at 5 o'clock.
Wow.
So I get it now. I get it. It's serious.
So for the people out there watching, what can they do to get involved? How do they reach out to you and do this?
If you want to be a helper, if you want to make a phone call, we have about 135 people that will be calling over the next couple of weeks. Would love to hear from you if you'd like to make a couple of calls. We're starting with 5 calls a person. So I'm asking people to take a look at our list, take a look at the people who you're most connected to, because it actually works better to get a phone call from someone that you know.
Makes sense.
And so we're starting with that. And like I say, the needs have a broad perspective from just thanks for calling to I need some help with groceries, I need some help with some family commitments, that kind of thing.
I appreciate you chartering this. You know, when you said family, that's what I always think of when I think of Rotary. You know, I have brothers and sisters and uncles and aunts, and just everybody is so close. That fellowship aspect is, to me, what makes our club so unique.
And I have to say, when I was sitting ill myself for those 2 weeks, there were 2 words, because your brain isn't functioning very well when you have this virus. 2 words kept coming to me. One was endurance, and the other was hope. And when I look at us as Rotarians, we will move forward together eventually in a different way. We'll thrive through this somehow. We'll endure it, and we're going to come out different, because this has been a different experience for all of us. But if we stay together and we are committed to service above self right now with each other, then we will endure it.
Jean, I always appreciate your positivity and your compassion, and I appreciate you coming to give us an update today.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Namaste.
Namaste.
What a great program. So I have some other great news here. I want to talk a little bit about the fundraising news. We have 2 campaigns a year. One is in the fall. That's for our local foundation, the Edina Rotary Foundation. One is in the spring, happening right now for the Rotary Foundation, our international foundation based out of Evanston, Illinois. So let's talk about the Edina Rotary Foundation first. This year we had the most successful fundraiser ever in the 60-year history of the club for our local foundation, the Edina Rotary Foundation. And I just wanted to report quickly on how that money is being used. Some of that money, of course, goes towards budgeted projects, including Feed My Starving Children, Camp Enterprise, Leadership Ethics Seminar, Interact, Rotaract, and so on. These are more long-term committed programs that we do year after year. The rest of the money goes to our local and international service committees to allocate. This year, our local grants team recommended, and the Edina Rotary Foundation approved, the following grants. ACES for $5,000. Better Futures, $2,000. Boulder Options, $2,400. Cornerstone, $2,300. The Edina Education Fund, $20,000. That goes towards our signature project for the next 4 years, the Edina Rotary Global Scholars Program. And that is done in partnership with a matching grant from the Edina Education Fund. They're matching us 1-to-1. In addition to the Edina Morningside Rotary Club, which is providing $2,500 per year over the course of the 4 years. Edina Education Fund 2 for $5,000 is that second grant we gave towards the Edina School District Meal Relief Program, COVID-19, that we talked about in the last couple weeks. Edina Give and Go, $4,000. Fishing for Life, $2,000. Gilda's Club, $2,400. Hope Academy, $5,000. The Muscular Dystrophy Association, $2,000. Oasis for Youth, $2,500. Open Arms, $2,800. The Rotary Club of Minnesota Veterans, $3,667. Sheridan Story, $1,915, and Veep, $3,600. The total of this year's grants, $66,682 of capital into the community. Wow. Last year, we gave away $63,000, so this is just a little bit higher than in the previous year. So just let me highlight a couple of those projects. We talked about the Edina Education Fund Global Scholars Program and the COVID-19 relief. Fishing for Life, that $2,000 is for tackle boxes for young people, trying to keep them on the road of development. Gilda's Club, the $2,400 is for furniture for their patient exercise and waiting and recovery and socializing areas in their facility in Minnetonka. Oasis for Youth, the $2,500 is for a van that delivers mobile services to the homeless youth that they serve. And Sheridan Story, the $1,915 goes towards a district grant for a garden to provide food for their clients. And then the last thing, Rotary Club of Minnesota Veterans. This was the first ever Veterans Club launched in the world, co-sponsored by our club and the Morningside Club. And that money was to help underwrite dues for first-year members to help get that club off the ground. So a lot of very worthy causes, and most importantly, a lot of impact from these gifts. So I want to thank again Kelly Burnett and her entire local grants team for their hard work on researching, grading, and recommending all of these highly deserving grants recipients. Okay, now let's talk about the Rotary Foundation. This week, District 5950's Rotary Foundation Committee authorized over $100,000 to the COVID crisis around the world, including $75,000 of District 5950's Global DDF to the Italian Rotarian Response to COVID-19 grant, and $25,000 of the District 5950's Global DDF to the Rotary International Disaster Response Fund. DDF, of course, is district designated funds. That's 50% of the money that goes to Rotary International that comes back after 3 years, and that can be used by our district for global and local projects. Let's talk about the first one, $75,000 to the Italian Response Fund. Italy is presenting an unusually tough environment for the crisis. Rotary International's global grant efforts in Italy include working with the 13 Rotary districts in country to support medical professions dealing with the coronavirus there. Our funding will be used to purchase the following badly needed additional medical equipment, including full-body thermal scanners, COVID-19 triage units, including isolation cabins, computer tablets, and related telemedicine software and monitors, and isolation stretchers to allow transport of patients without physical contact with any healthcare professionals. Very worthy cause. The other $25,000 allocated went to the Disaster Response Fund of Rotary International. The Rotary Foundation trustees recently placed $1 million in its Disaster Response Fund to make grants immediately available for applications related to COVID-19. Our district's contribution supports grants that help Rotarians shore up the medical capabilities in their communities in all parts of the world, including hotspots in the United States. So, a lot of badly needed money out the door, again, thanks to all of your donations to the Rotary Foundation. I want to congratulate the district for this very wise allocation of DDF funds to get the money into the hands of the people who need it most to fight the epidemic. I also want to remind people about the genius of the TRF funding model, which, as I mentioned, takes our TRF contributions, holds them for 3 years so that they can earn interest, and then sends back 50% of those funds directly to our district for local and international service projects that we deem are important. That mechanism is what allowed our district to quickly and effectively allocate funds to the pandemic. And so, please remember these important grants when you're considering a donation this spring to the Rotary Foundation. Our goal this year is $100,000, and I'm pleased to report right now we are at $90,600. Wow, almost there. Please contact TRF Chair Susan Stiles or Committee Liaison David Kleins if you're interested in making a donation. And on that note, let's move on to today's speaker. It's now my pleasure to introduce today's program and speaker, Mick Sterling. After 40 years of performing, songwriting, and giving audiences all he's got in the Twin Cities and Midwest region, Mick Sterling has left his unique mark in Minnesota music. His signature sound of soul, rock, and blues is finding new audiences and selling out shows everywhere in 2020, as Mick produces and performs music that honors the artists that influenced him. As founder and director of the 30 Days Foundation, Mick has been instrumental in providing assistance to nearly 99,000 requests for assistance for Minnesota residents, ranging from feeding the homeless, payment of utility bills, rent payments, medical bills, grocery and fuel cards, and many more real-life financial crises, with the donations being paid only to the service provider requesting payment. Please help me welcome to Rotary TV set, Mick Sterling.
How are you?
How are you?
Very good. Thanks for having me.
Well, I got to give a shout out to Paul Peterson, St. Paul, for
Hey, Paul.
arranging this.
Thanks so much.
Glad he made the connection, and I'm glad you were
He's
able
been a
to
great
be
supporter,
here.
so thank you very much.
Oh, great. So before I get started, I read your bio a little bit, tells about your background in your music business and the nonprofit, but tell me a little bit about what else you're doing, or your family, where you live. Are you here in Minneapolis?
I am in
or?
Minneapolis, and everybody's fine. Everybody's kind of just laying low.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time, so finding new ways to entertain themselves, and lots of patience and grace, and some fear. There's a lot of fear, and so every day is difficult. It's difficult. We've never experienced anything like this before.
Yeah.
So everybody's handling it a little bit differently, and but myself, I'm trying to stay active and positive and just wait this thing out.
Yep. So are you, for the most part, holed up at home? Are you doing any composing or, creation as you pass the many, many hours?
Most of the time I'm at home. I just yesterday, since nobody knows this, but I just finished my submission for my second book, actually just last night. So
okay.
I wrote it during this downtime. So, whether that's going to be the finished copy of it or not, but it's
first draft is out the door.
The first draft is going to be
Okay.
out the door. So that was a big accomplishment for me. So I'm just just kind of dealing with entertainment wise, what needs to change, moving around dates. I hire over 100 different musicians for my shows throughout a year.
Wow.
So it's
Okay.
nice, we all want to get back to work.
Yep.
So it's a difficult time. Paul certainly understands that. We haven't faced anything like this either. So it's a different thing. And I'm also doing a streaming online concert series. It's called the Relief Sessions.
Okay.
That we assist Minnesota musicians every Saturday night for like a 2-hour streaming session. We do 5 different artists. They do 20-minute performances, and then the people that support them, they make a donation to the 30 Days Foundation, and in return, we give it to the artist, because they are certainly facing real-life financial crisis.
No doubt.
So it's a unique way to help these artists there's just nowhere for us to play.
Yeah.
There's nowhere for us to perform, and the common thing when a musician or a stagehand is in trouble, most of the time you do a benefit for them at a theater or a club to raise funds for them. Well, you can't do that either right now. So everybody has to get really creative as to how to raise revenue during these few weeks.
So I want to break this up into kind of your music career and then your nonprofit and the books. I'd like to hear about the book. Tell me, how did you get started in the music business? What were you doing in the beginning, and what are you doing now? How has that transitioned over time?
Well, I started in about 1980.
Okay.
And nobody really knew who I was. I did about 4 years in town, various bands, and it was fun, but nobody came and saw us. I moved to St. Louis for about 3 years, and I learned how to songwrite, and I worked 28 nights a month, sang every song.
Wow.
It kind of toughened me up. I moved back, and about in 1988, that's when this band called Mick Sterling and the Stud Brothers started, which really became the catalyst for everything that I've done in town. It became a very, very popular band. We played at this place called Bunkers in Minneapolis
Oh, yeah.
for 17 years every Sunday, and I created. That's really where I started doing charity work. I did a fundraiser for St. Joseph Home for Children, and then in about 1994, I started this charity called Heart and Soul, which was a huge concert event that had Johnny Lang and the Neville Brothers and Susan Tedeschi, and we did it for multiple years, and that was a tremendous success, very fun, and thankfully I've just been able to perform with incredible musicians like Paul,
Yep.
and the whole Peterson family off and on. So I've been very blessed.
So when did you two meet? Was that in the 80s?
Sometime
He was doing The Family, right,
Actually,
back then?
actually meeting Paul, I think it was in the 2000s. I didn't meet the Petersons
Oh, post The Family and all
post
that.
the family, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
era,
Although I
okay.
certainly had the Family album, and I told Paul that no one else should sing. Nothing compares to you except him. Everybody else is an imposter.
I've heard it. It's
Outside of Prince, of course, but
Of course. That's great.
yeah.
Oh, so you guys met a little bit later in
We
both
did,
of
yeah,
your
yeah.
careers.
I mean, of course,
Did
I
you
knew of the
collaborate at
Peterson
all, or
family.
were you just fans of each
No,
other?
we're just
mutual
fans of each
Okay.
other. You know, our paths didn't really cross very much, but now doing these tribute shows and more of the Dakota, our paths thankfully cross, and they're lovely. Their whole family's lovely.
So in terms of were you gigging and recording, or just gigging, or how did it pan out over time?
In the height of the Stud Brothers, we were performing over 200 nights a month, 200 nights a year.
Wow.
And we recorded 6 original CDs during that time. And then I did a solo CD in 2006. I've done a few since then as well. So I'm always I like being creative. I like shooting for something and see if I can hit the mark that I came up to in my head. And so I like that.
On the recording front, this just for those of our younger members, CDs are little small discs with recorded music on them.
I did everything on 8-track. I was
Oh gosh, it just
really-
made me think. Later on, I think, especially in the last 10 years, there's been more freedom for independent artists to get their music out there to their fan base and promote
Yes.
themselves. How have you transitioned from that more formal recording process and distribution to kind of distributing yourself, or have you?
Well, since I've started 30 Days Foundation, I basically, all of my past CDs and current things,
Yeah.
it just goes to the 30 Days Foundation.
Okay,
It
I see.
it kind of gets to a point that it would be fun to record something new, but I can't really justify it in my head as to why I should do something new outside of just, it would be fun to be in the studio.
Yeah.
But I don't really have that desire to release something new at this time.
I'm kind of.
Before I, when I used to. My focus
Yep.
is different now.
I got you. Well, I just was kind of thinking that Mick Sterling and St. Paul Peterson album might be a pretty big hit out
Listen,
there.
that would not hurt my
I'd
feelings.
like to maybe be the investor on that one. Paul Peterson, you hearing me? That could be a great collaboration, man.
Yes.
Okay, I see. So you kind of transitioned, you said early 2000s, you started to do the nonprofit work, and now
Yeah.
pretty much that's your focus. And
Yeah,
how did you get started with this particular foundation?
Well, I did an event in Excelsior. I produced a concert event called By the Bay Music Festival. It was I just did it one year, unfortunately, but everyone was asking me at that festival, who was it for? Because I had done Heart and Soul, and people knew me
Yep.
from that, and it was just a concert event. I didn't have a particular charity in mind. But then I started thinking, well, maybe I should find one and do one.
Yeah.
And as I was looking for that, all of these things started happening in my life. People, my family members, associates, band members were going through these unforeseen financial issues.
Was this the time of the recession, the last recession in 08, 09?
It was about 2010.
Okay, yeah.
And it was still pretty tough. And it was just, spouse got sick, spouse got laid off,
Yep.
Someone faced an eviction, that type of a thing. Not in their control. And it happened in about a 10-day span of multiple scenarios like that. And I thought, well, that's an interesting charity. What if you could help someone with that particular thing?
Yep.
Not everything.
Right.
But that particular thing. And it doesn't go to that person. It goes to the company or the person that actually needs to get paid.
It's almost like a bridge grant to get over that little
Exactly.
transition time where it's such a shock to people and households.
Right.
I mean,
And I heard of that, if you're a church member, and of course churches would do that if they have a parishioner that is having some trouble, they would do something like that. But I never heard of anything across the board.
Yeah.
Anybody could ask, anybody in the state of Minnesota. So I Googled it. I thought, well, somebody must have thought of this before, and nobody really had. So that's,
no one was in that niche.
it was
Okay.
just a very unique but really simple niche that I thought, well, that's an interesting thing. So I met with a couple of women that helped me with Heart and Soul, Cindy Chandler and Karen Sorbo, and we had lunch at Redwood in Minnetonka, and I told them this idea, and they thought it was really good. So they each wrote me a check for $300, and they said, start this idea.
Wow.
And I did. And so I put it out on MySpace.
So 2010 was the birth
2010
of the
was the birth
foundation.
of it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And so our first person that reached me, us, was this woman who messaged me on MySpace and asked for $1,500 and made an itemized list of what equaled $1,500. Mm-hmm. And I had no money. I had $400 and nothing. I just started it 2 days before that. But there was a Sprint phone bill on there that was $78.94. So, and she gave me the account number and the phone number. So this is in the span of about 10 minutes.
Right.
I get the message, I call Sprint, I pay her phone bill, I hung up, I call her back. I said, I'm sorry we can't do all of this, but we were able to do the Sprint phone bill for $78.94. I hope that helps. Mm-hmm. And she just started sobbing, like a child sobbing, where you can't understand her. And after she composed herself, she had said, I haven't been able to tell my friends, I haven't been able to tell my family, I haven't been able to tell anybody that I'm so embarrassed. I can't even pay my Sprint phone bill.
Yeah.
And we talked for a few minutes, and I hung up and I went, that is really astounding. I think this might actually be something. Because
a lot of impact for not a lot of dollars, right?
$78.94 is not that much money in the
Yep.
grand scheme of things, but at that particular time, it was everything.
Yeah.
Because it gave that person one less thing to have burden with.
Yeah.
And sometimes, most times, people don't need everything.
So here we are 10 years forward from that recession.
Yes.
Maybe at the brink of another one, but definitely in a major crisis like we've never seen.
Yes.
What's happening right now with the foundation, and how are you responding to what you see out there?
Well, our fiscal year starts in December each year.
Yep.
So the numbers that the 99,000 number that you said, for about 4 years we were feeding the homeless down at Dorothy Day Center for two times a week.
Okay.
So those numbers got to that because it took a lot. We haven't done that now in the last 6 months. So in December, we started brand new. Since December, we've done almost 950 donations.
Wow.
Just since December. And Target cards, utility bills, back rent, security deposits, all that type of thing. Very, specific things. But for most people, that's what they need. Mm-hmm. That's what they need. They need one thing to break the trajectory of misfortune.
Yeah.
Catch the breath, get back, and that's really what we specialize in. It's a really unique thing, and that's why about 40 or 50 different charities in the cities, they really all around the state reach out to us, sober houses, that type of thing, because what we can do, I call the 30 Days Foundation, we're more of a conduit charity.
Gotcha.
I heard you mention Veep, where you made a generous donation to Veep. Veep is wonderful. I would prefer the 30 Days Foundation to write a check for $500 to Veep, because I know that $500 is actually probably 7 or 8 times worth in value giving it to Veep.
Right.
They have the network. They have they have the history.
So
They have
partnerships
all
are
of that stuff.
important in your funding model.
I think it's
Okay.
huge. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense. It doesn't matter who gets the credit as long as it gets done.
Yeah.
That's really the big thing.
I hear you there.
Yeah.
So now your phone is ringing off the hook, and I find it really interesting that you've married your music life and your passion for this work. where you're giving out grants to these musicians going through very difficult economic times. I mean, that must be just for you and your heart must be such a great thing.
Well,
great achievement.
I did not want this to dictate my narrative.
Yep.
I respect it and I will abide by it, but I'm not going to be dictated by fear.
Gotcha.
Not. You know, I just think it's a way to approach it. It's a way I would prefer not to approach it. I respect it and I'm not being naive about it, but I'm not going to let this dictate everything. And this is a way to keep everybody safe. We're following the state guidelines, but people want to see live performances and musicians need to perform. We need to perform as much as people need to see us. And this is a really safe way to raise funds for artists. And within 20 minutes, an artist that played last week got their rent paid in 20 minutes. They stayed home. But it was because of their supporters, their family, their friends that went, okay, this is great. I want to help this person. And that's a wonderful thing.
That is a wonderful thing. So tell our viewers out there, how do they get plugged into these concerts?
Well, it's on QCTV. It's a North Cable station. So QCTV.org. If you go on my Facebook page, Mick Sterling, my Mick Sterling Facebook page, we just announced the new lineup this week. So it's on this Saturday, April 11th, from 7 to 9 p.m. But we're doing more on the 15th, 22nd, and 29th. And hopefully we won't have to do this anymore in May.
Is
we'll
Peterson playing on these shows? Or?
We tried to do something with Paul late in March, and then we just couldn't get it together.
Couldn't get the schedule.
So, yeah. So everybody's doing their own kind of streaming thing, which is terrific. But I haven't seen something like this. It's kind of reminiscent of almost like a Jerry Lewis telethon kind of a thing, where you have multiple people doing things and
Live Aid concert.
Like a Live Aid, yeah. But done safely. And I think that people really appreciate the intimacy. They're letting people actually into their home. It doesn't get more intimate than that as a performer.
Yeah.
You want the audience to be with you. Well, they're in as close as they're going to get.
Yeah.
They're in my home. And I think the artists have really enjoyed the opportunity, and I'm so glad that people are responding. It's great.
Well, I've asked Paul Peterson if you want to do a performance for the live TV show. We'd love to have you in our home doing this, so I'm going to throw that out there again to you, Paul. But it's funny because I think of back. All my references are from the '80s, of course, Live Aid.
Sure.
But what a just a pivotal moment that was when that was thrown together. So it's great to see you making an adjustment in this time of distress to benefit others. And I think your whole point is don't get locked in by the fear. You got to be able to pivot, make the adjustment and find a new way to do things, right?
Right.
Don't get locked down, keep innovating, keep changing, and keep finding your new identity out there as things around you swirl.
Well, I posted something on my Facebook page, during this. Hope is not the cloak of the naive. It just isn't. You obviously have to. This is a significant cultural, medical issue we're going through. But how you define yourself during these times, how you act, what you decide, what you'll listen to, what you'll not listen to, how you react to things, how you treat people. This is a very defining moment for all of us. And I would prefer not to be remembered as someone that withered and panicked. There's a lot of fear out there, and I respect the fear. And I feel terrible for people that have fear, and I have fear myself. But I'm in a position to help people through this. Mm-hmm. Not many people are. And everybody has to rise up. Governor Walz, rising up.
Yeah,
that it's time for people like that in those positions. They need to step up. That's what's expected. That's why I think the 30 Days Foundation and Veep and Loaves and Fishes and all of these amazing organizations, Prism, they're doing God's work.
Yeah,
and they're afraid too, but they're not allowed to be afraid and stop.
We're blessed in Minnesota. We have a great nonprofit community, a
Yes,
great
we
donor
do.
community. I mean, we're just so blessed in so many ways. We
Yep.
also have the lowest incidence of coronavirus right now in the U.S., which leads me to our next part of the program, which is if you'd like to join me, I have a little weekly coronavirus
Ooh.
quiz that
All
I
right.
broached. But before I do that with you, tell us out there, how do we find out more information about the 30 Days Foundation?
Yeah, you can go to the website is www. The word the number 30 with the dash daysfoundation.org. The 30daysfoundation.org, and you can donate on there. You can do a one-time donation. There's a 90-second video on there that explains one of our programs called Keep the Key, which is what we help with security deposits and back rent. It's very illustrative of how it actually really happens.
Right.
It can happen that quickly. And it's a pretty powerful 90-second video that's on there. But, you know, we try and stop the momentum of bad things happening.
Yeah.
You know, if you can stop it after one or two things, you may not need more. That's really the model that I try and take. If you can pay someone's utility bill for $100, who knows what happens after that for people? Everybody just needs a breather sometimes.
Well put.
And that's what we try and do.
Well put. Okay, here we go.
All right.
Corona quiz of the week.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Question number 1. Worldwide, about how many people are infected with coronavirus? A, 100,000. B, over 1 million. C, 10 million. Or D, 100 million people?
I think it's B.
B, yes. Right now, about 1.4 million.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 2. By the way, if you get all these right, our videographer Chris is going to give you $1 million in cash.
This is the greatest Rotary ever.
He's an essential worker. He's making hand over fist. Oh, $1. Sorry, I misspoke.
There's a 1 in there.
All right, question number 2. Worldwide, about how many people have died from the coronavirus? 5,000, 50,000, 500,000, or 5 million?
I believe it's 50,000.
50,000, 2 for 2. Uh-oh. Number 3. Most cases of coronavirus have been reported in this country. China, Italy, Spain, or the United States?
I think it's the United States now.
It's the United States. 3 for 3. Killing it, Mick. People infected with coronavirus seem to be most contagious a week before symptoms appear, 2 to 3 days before symptoms appear, in the first day or two after symptoms appear, or a week after symptoms first appear.
I'm just going to guess C, but I have no idea.
In the first, it's B, 2 or 3 days before symptoms appear. So, yeah, and that's those asymptomatic cases are very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, the Food and Drug Administration approved a test that could help detect people who have recovered from infection, even if they showed no symptoms. So again, these asymptomatic cases. This test looks for intact coronavirus, viral DNA, viral RNA, or antibodies to coronavirus.
I have no idea. Don't know.
Okay, answer is D, antibodies to coronavirus. I guess in those asymptomatic cases, somehow they can find the immune system response and test for it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Number 6, taking how many steps a day at a minimum was tied to a lower risk of dying prematurely from a variety of causes. And this, of course, is addressing people maintaining their health during the crisis to help their immune system. So how many steps a day at a minimum was tied to a lower risk of dying prematurely from a variety of causes? 4,000, 7,500, 10,000, or 12,500?
I would say at least 7,500.
4,000, just 4,000 steps.
Really?
Yeah, so keep walking inside and doing your staircases. It can help you. Okay, number 7, many people are turning to bikes for exercise. How many cyclists were seriously injured in New York City alone last year? So our biking frequency is up, not as many cars, but so how many people were injured last year in New York? 40, 400, 4,000, or 40,000?
I would say 4,000. They're riding bikes all over the place.
4,000.
Yeah.
Yes. So wear your helmet when you're out there getting exercise. Did you also know that bike shops are deemed essential businesses?
They should be.
I was at Eric's
I
bike
would
shop
assume
the
so,
other day.
yeah.
They're open.
Yeah.
Okay, bonus question. I mentioned this earlier about Minnesota's infection rate. Minnesota's infection rate is how many per 100,000? 17, 83, 150, or 220? Per 100,000.
I would say 83.
17.
Nice.
And you know what? That is the best in the nation right now. So
Yeah.
shout out to Governor Walz and all
Yes.
of the residents of Minnesota for heeding the guidelines. It seems to be working. And I was
Yeah,
reading
we're
some
in a very
articles.
fortunate state
We're very
to
fortunate
be here.
But I was reading some articles about the economic recovery after the 1918 influenza epidemic
Yep.
and some other recessionary type situations, 9/11, where there was a big shock, and the cities that and the countries that take the fastest, hardest line to quarantine are the ones that recover economically the fastest. So when we say there's only 17 per 100,000 cases of coronavirus in Minnesota, I think that bodes well for our recovery because we did our quarantining fast and hard, and
Yeah.
they just extended it through May 4th. So
Yeah, I just think that the nature of Minnesotans in general
yeah,
make things better. I think geographically, it's
yeah,
where we actually live. The content of the land itself is different. I mean, even in Minneapolis is not New York City
right.
by any stretch of the imagination. Even though some people would like it to be,
Not as dense.
It just isn't.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, New York City is New York City, and Minneapolis is. There's a lot of room to go, a lot of room to go around.
We have to count our blessings.
We do.
I think there's so many good things. Well, let me tell you this. Rotary is a global network of 1.2 million neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change. From literacy and peace to water and health, we are always working to better our world, and we stay committed to the end. In honor of your presentation today, we will make a donation to Rotary's official disaster relief partner, Shelterbox,
Beautiful.
which provides emergency shelter to families devastated by natural disaster and conflict around the world.
Love that.
Thanks again for being here
Thanks
and
for
sharing
having
your
me.
story.
Appreciate
It's
it.
great to meet you.
You too. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again, Paul, for arranging for Mick to be out with us today. So in closing, let's talk about next week. We'll be here again on Rotary TV, same time, same place. Our speaker will be Douglas Keeler, Executive Director of Juvenile Justice Advocates International, which is an organization dedicated to protecting the rights of juveniles in court systems around the world. I'll be interested to hear what he has to say about how they're working to protect these kids from COVID-19 when they're in incarceration. Then on April 23rd, we're going to do a Zoom meeting led by Bridget Hallstrom, our incoming membership chair, and also the co-chair of our mentor program. Bridget will facilitate that meeting, and our featured speaker will be Ellen Kennedy, who will be talking about the state of hate. And she's going to run down the current anti-Semitism and racism trends in America and around the world. Looking forward to that presentation. On April 30th, although the Vocational Ethics Day multi-club meeting was canceled, we will have our virtual Vocational Ethics Day here in the Rotary TV studio with speaker John Robishko being interviewed by Eden Prairie AM President and frequent Vocational Ethics Day moderator John Credelli. So John and John in the studio talking about John's Robishko's story of ethics himself. We also have some awesome events tentatively planned for May. Of course, as I mention every week, things may shift. We know that the stay-at-home was just extended to May 4th, but we'll keep you posted here on a weekly basis. But for now, on our May 14th meeting, we've rebooked John Kaufman from H2 Open Doors, and he'll be flying in from California to talk about some of his recent projects with the SunSpring solar and wind-powered water purification systems, including a recent installation at the Escuintla National Hospital in Guatemala, where our friends Dr. Menendez and Dr. Posadas are working through their own coronavirus epidemic in that country. Remember, these little systems can crank out over 10,000 gallons of purified water a day. It's pretty cool. Then on May 27th, we plan to have our off-site vocational day at the Discovery Nexus Center Tech Incubator and Collaboration Center at the University of Minnesota. Brought to you by University of Minnesota Alumni Board member and our own Mark Jessen. Thanks, Mark, for hooking us up. Then, to cap off on a great May, on the evening of May 28th, we'll be headed to the Walker Art Center for private tours of the sculpture gardens and the permanent collection. Again, TBA, listen right here on Rotary TV for your updates on the calendar. As we close today's meeting, I'd like to share a quote from Leonard Cohen, Canadian singer, songwriter, poet, and novelist whose work explored the human condition in all its forms, including religion, politics, isolation, depression, loss, death, and romantic relationships. Cohen said, "Ring the bells that still can ring. Forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." We are much more resilient than we realize, and we can work through these uncertain and imperfect times, find the gift of growth and innovation underneath, and improve ourselves and our humanitarian organization for the better. As you go about your week, remember that together we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves, as Rotary pursues its mission to connect the world in meaningful ways. Thank you again, everyone, for tuning in to this week's broadcast of Rotary TV. Be safe, be well, and have a great week. Meeting adjourned.